Stories are about characters. You know what's interesting? Regardless of stereotype, personality, gender, etc., we all have the same capacity to engage and care about any character. Whether it's Joy, Marlin, Mr. Fredricksen, Kiki, we relate and we care about them. If Marlin didn't find Nemo, we'd be upset. If Kiki couldn't overcome self-doubts and never flew again, we'd be upset. It's so weird. If some old crotchety man comes up behind me in the line at the grocery store and just starts complaining to me about his life, what's my default? Smile, nod, give him short surface responses, and then move on with my day and rarely ever recall that encounter. But in a story, it doesn't matter who it's about. If a character has any depth, I'm in. Shut up. Take my money. And the next 2 hours of my life. If a character has any depth... Bold claim, young Adam from 4 seconds ago. Depth, along with dimension, character, development, are all words thrown around a lot when pertaining to how much we care. And although people use them all the time, there's not a lot of resources out there that describes what that means practically. How does one achieve a character as relatable as Woody or Rapunzel? So, let's look at a film that is overwhelmingly praised for getting us to care about the characters quickly. As far as the internet is concerned, the first 10 minutes is better than most films. And from what I've gathered from the kids these days, at the very least, is a better love story than Twilight. This is a great piece of storytelling for a number of reasons, but crazy for this scene right here. Why do I care? Why are rivers of sadness making their way quickly to my chin? We just met him 10 minutes ago, and we met her only 8.5 minutes ago. I don't know them! But we do, and that's what's interesting. If you look around a little, you'll see backstory thrown around a lot when talking about character development and characterization, how a writer needs to meticulously figure out that their character was raised by ocelots and spent most of their younger years as a stand-in lawn gnome and Gimbelstumpf to protect their Zatzenfruit garden from witches' spells and wood trolls. Which is great. Do know your character, inside and out. But what few people talk about is how that is communicated to the audience. In a strictly practical way, what events/ideas are necessary to include so the audience cares about your character? So, let's go. When meeting somebody new, you're not going to get very far without asking some questions. But there's different kinds of questions. There's your exposition questions. How many kids do you have? Where do you live? And then there's character questions. What do you want? What do you want to do? What's your goal? The first category is facts. I have 3 kids. But the latter is a decision, and a decision has motivation. I mean, who do you feel you know more after that conversation? Cindy with 3 kids, or Amber, who had 2 boys but really wanted a girl, and they were just going to try one more time and were overjoyed when they got Isabella? I mean, the exposition facts are essential, but if you just get that far, you're not going to engage with what makes them, their humanity. So let's look it up. 35 seconds in, we meet Carl. And he's digging adventure, and Carl's months, and everything's great, and so wait for it, bam! This is something he wants. He wants to be like Mike. 1 minute in, we know his motivation. After the theater, all this jumping around just further reinforces our understanding of his motivation to want adventure and be like Charles Mutz. And then, boom, she wants it too. Great. 3 minutes in, we know the want and eventual deep-seated idea that not only motivates the next 10 minutes, but the entire film. Let's keep watching. So now we have the next 4 minutes, which only further reinforces their want of exploring and adventure. And then the montage, which is actually driven entirely by their motivation. So it starts off with them being married and doing cute married stuff, all still satisfying their want for adventure. Things pick up when they see babies in the sky. Now they want a baby. Now let's put a pin in this scene real quick, but for all intents and purposes, now we want adventure again, which continues to be the underlying motivation throughout the rest of the film. So, what's next? So now we know what they want. Adventure, babies, adventure. And you could also make the note about their motivation to love each other, which is totally valid and is the actual thing behind the thing, but it's not really an established motivation until it is. So now we have a feel of who a character is through their motivation. But how do we know that to be true? How do we trust them? As Elizabeth English puts it, characters have emotional lives which define their character, just as their attitudes define them. Their responses expand this definition. It's the emotional responses to events and other characters in the story that makes a character understandable and believable. How she or he feels creates sympathy in the audience. So, now we've met a person/character. Through exposition, we know the facts of their life. Through motivation, we know what they value. But now we're doing life together, and through their actions, they're either reaffirming or contradicting who we know them to be. And we accept real-time actions to be more true of who a person is. I can't edit out of a conversation that I'm impatient if I'm yelling at a waiter to hurry up with my food. Or maybe like you meet Corey, who seems really thoughtful and caring, and then he sacrifices some of his time to go hang out and play with his niece. Like, that only solidifies more who that character is to you, and that starts to establish trust. And this is why pantomime is so important, because it's who a character chooses to be in unedited real time. So, giving your character events and conflicts to respond to allows the audience to observe who they are, which further solidifies who the character is to you. And how does this play out in Up? So we talked about this flick and how it provides a context for Carl to react to. Note how seeing him react to a movie is more telling of his motivation than if he was just like telling someone. And it also gives him a chance to throw in all this plot too, which is clean. Efficient. Okay, so now they meet and they have this great conversation, and we immediately get a good feel of their personalities based on how they respond to each other. He's intimidated by her big personality, she's softened by his quiet personality, and also notice by the stark contrast of their personalities, it's more clear who they are in relation. And all that is solidified in the next scene. They're addressed with a conflict that his balloon gets stuck in the ceiling, and now we get to see how they react to this problem in real time, which allows us to trust and further connect with them. And then we get some plot and some cute interaction and responses that further show us their personalities. And now, the bread and butter, the montage. They can't tell us anything else. From here on out, we observe through pantomime. In line with their established motivation, they build their dream house. Aw, he messed up their mailbox, but it's cool, we'll just be cute. She excitedly wants to talk about all the things, and he just wants to lay back content and just listen. Aw, his balloon stand floats away, but it's okay, we're still cute, we'll just laugh it off. And then, they want all the babies. Wait. Still a pen there, hold that. But I mean, hopefully you get the idea. His tire breaks, they have to pay for it, but you know, life happens. He breaks his leg, it's cool, we'll just shrug it off. And although these latter conflicts also are informing the plot, we're getting a pretty good idea of who these characters are consistently, and more importantly, their relationship with each other and how much they love each other, which if you remember is the thing behind the thing. But if you notice, the weight of all these conflicts are played pretty light. Except for, that's right, time to take that pen out. This idea is poorly executed in many films. This is what makes okay characters and the characters I'd rather pause the movie than watch their lives be at stake. My personal definition of vulnerability in this instance is revealing personality-defining events or conflicts of a character. In Tangled, we have the campfire scene where Rapunzel reveals that she's never left the tower before and she's mixed up whether or not to go back, and Flynn tells us how an orphan has informed who he is and wants to be. In Castle in the Sky, Sheeta and Patsu real talk in that skydeck kite thing about her childhood and the spells and how she feels about the situation they're in. In Hotel T, Mavis wants Drac to erase her memory. That's some serious stuff. In Lion King, when they're talking about the stars and the king's looking down upon him, this is even a step further because now we see how these personality-defining traits conflict with his current worldview, and it's just pushing that inner struggle. It's like, so good. And in this scene right here, it's not even something told to us. We see and experience real time a personality-defining event and how specifically Ellie reacts to it. It's like an island of personality just grew in Ellie's head. Yeah, that's right. Using Pete's other films to explain this one. I mean, that's pretty much what I'm defining as vulnerability, just letting the audience in on the formation of one of these core memories. I like to bring up that the scene even exists, because it could have just as easily not existed. Just cut it. There you go. No sadness. Or even play it lighter tonally. But they don't. This scene in all of its context is here intentionally and impacts you not only to really know Ellie as a character, but so that the funeral scene hurts. This scene in all of its context is the emotional thrust for the rest of the film. It's the difference between understanding why Carl is trying to get to Paradise Falls and feeling why Carl is trying to get to Paradise Falls. Because this scene is another personality-defining event for Carl, so we're not put off by him being a crusty old man. We're like, yo, we've been through the thick and thin with him. We know him. Let's go back to real life. This is the final tier that defines your relationships with people. You don't go up to someone you just met and tell them how your wife's miscarriage affected you. That's a conversation between the best of friends because you know them. You went through the first tears together with them. You trust them. You love on them. And by sharing these aspects of your life and who you are, probably deepens your trust and strengthens that relationship. This is what we're trying to achieve with characters. To make the audience feel like they're best friends with them, to experience the ups and downs, the mediocre and the weighty. You know what makes them them because you're with them at their worst. So write characters who have and will go through some serious biz because I want to know who they are at their core and I want to love them for it. I'd love to hear you all's thoughts in the comments, maybe expanding on my ideas or countering my ideas. Also in the description, I'll throw in any resources I used, also including Elizabeth English's article on character development and characterization, which is a really great resource. And lastly, stories are about people. We are people. The more I learn about story, the more I really can't help but consider how it pertains to how I should do life better and more intentionally. Specifically with this topic, how useful would this have been to learn this, I don't know, freshman year of high school or college? I'm pretty convinced that in the hands of any master story craftsman, anybody's life can be impactful and engaging. Because we're inherently sympathetic, story wouldn't work if we weren't. So take this with a grain of salt. I ain't no psychosociocologist, and this doesn't mean go up to some guy you decided you want to marry and tell him about a life-defining event. But maybe go tell a good friend, if you haven't already. Where could that go? Or maybe the next time you meet somebody, don't stop after you just learn their occupation. Maybe ask them what they want or why they want to do that. I don't know. I'm just a guy who likes a good story. But as storytellers, don't we want our own stories to be good? Who knows how the old man behind me in Shop and Save could have impacted my life?